Hi, I'm Lenora Bresler. Welcome to the February 27, 2017 edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. By the way, for those of you that are wondering, I am in my little one-person sauna, and occasionally I will do my recordings from here because it is great in that it's almost soundproof, and it does keep, those ambient sounds from coming out. But the lighting is a little sometimes strange, although I can turn on the light. Watch this. Hold on. Ready? See me? I got that glow. I got the halo glow. Isn't that cool? But we will take that off now for right now. But anyway, what we're going to talk about today is the importance of shoes in the Bible. There's a lot to be said about shoes. Do you know anybody that just loves shoes, loves going shopping for shoes? It's not really my thing, but more power to those that it is. But it's absolutely fascinating. There are actually just scores and scores of references to shoes. But we're going to limit today to just one aspect. There's only one time in the entire Bible where an individual was told, remove your shoes for you are standing on holy ground. Now, there were other times when people were told to remove their shoes, but the only time that it was coupled with the explanation, you are on holy ground, was in Exodus when God appeared to Moses in the burning bush and gave him his great commission of going and rescuing the Hebrews from Egypt. Now, what is it that made that ground holy? Of course, it wasn't that there was anything special about that particular few square feet of desert, except that God was present. That's what makes anything holy, is the presence of God. Now, interestingly, in the ancient Mideast, and even today in areas of the Mid and Far East, a shoe or anything associated with the foot itself is thought to represent domination. You may remember in the ancient world when a warrior would win over somebody else, sometimes they would say something like, you see this in ancient literature as well, I'm going to put my foot on the throat of my enemy. It represented domination. If you look at the Egyptian hieroglyphs or other artwork from the ancient world depicting battles, you would often see the victor with his foot on the neck, usually, of the vanquished. So anything associated with the foot represented dominion, and I'm in a superior position. Well, obviously, if you are interacting with God, you are not in the dominant position there. And so you remove your shoes to show respect and proper understanding of your respective situations. Now, fascinating, in the tabernacle, that was the tent that God commanded Moses to create and place right in the center of the wandering Jews as they were going from Egypt into the promised land. The tabernacle, that tent, meant dwelling place. It was the place where God was voluntarily dwelling with his people. And so the people, the Levites, that tribe which was destined to be the priests, they had to conduct all of their work in the tabernacle barefooted. In fact, in the outside courtyard, there was the great big altar where the sacrifices would be made. And that was a high place, so you had to walk up a little ramp to get there. But it was a ramp, not steps, specifically so that the soles of your feet would never show. Because again, the foot and anything where the soles of your feet would show, meaning that you were raising your foot up in a stance of domination, would have been disrespectful. Isn't that fascinating? One other quick thing about the tabernacle. I'm doing a study in my Sunday school class about the tabernacle and how everything about Christ is foreshadowed in the accoutrements, the furniture, as well as what was done in the tabernacle. But one thing that's fascinating is that even the outer courtyard, in other words, the dimensions of the tabernacle that were at its largest, was relatively small. It was only 150 feet by 75 feet. And you can go walk that. Well, why don't you go out today and take some kind of a measurer and just plot out and walk the perimeter of 150 by 75 feet. It wasn't very big. How in the world could the God of the universe, a God who, Solomon would later say when he dedicated the temple, I know you cannot be contained within the walls of a building, no matter how grand the building. How in the world could God come and live with the people in such a relatively small and insignificant location? And I want to leave you with this. Have you ever known someone that you loved so much that you didn't care where you were? You didn't care if you were living in a hole in the ground. As long as they were with you, you were happy. My darling husband Josh assures me of that almost every day. Where some of you know we're trying to sell our big beautiful home and move into something, downsize a bit, and we talk a lot about where are we going, what do we want, and he tells me, and he is not just saying it, he means it. He says, babe, I really don't care. Are you going to be there? Then that's all I care about. And think about that. That's what God has said to us through the tabernacle. He who was so grand is so grand, who has at his command all of the universe and all the wonders of the universe. What does he do? He condescends, and I mean that in a good, gentle, and merciful way. He condescends to come and live with us, to voluntarily put himself in a very humble state, first in the tabernacle and later in the physical bodily form of a man. Because why? Because he loves us so much that he's willing to do that in order to be with us. How wonderful to be so loved and thought so worthy by a God. Wow, it's mind-boggling. So, remember, every time you put on shoes, you can remember sometimes you need to take off those shoes, at least metaphorically. And that is whenever you are in the presence of God, we should always be barefooted, metaphorically speaking, before our God. For wherever he is, and he is always with us, it is holy ground. I'm Lenora Bresler. Visit me tomorrow on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. Have a great day.